3 haunting true hidden camera horror stories that will haunt you. FREVR. When a camera captures the unseen, you can bet it unveils things that will shatter your sense of safety. Through the lens, ordinary moments twist into the extraordinary, plunging into horror that can linger long after the lights go out. Imagine this: a family documenting their vacation at a beautiful cabin, only to discover that their joyful memories are coated in a darkness that crawls into their bones. The air thickens with dread, hearts pound like drums, and shadows begin to stir as if alive, all captured in chilling silence. In this nightmare, every smile hides a scream, and every laugh echoes with forgotten terror. As the sun dipped below the trees, the first clips began to roll. A giggle from the youngest child, then the sudden thud of something heavy. Wait, what was that? A creak in the floorboards, barely audible, but enough to send chills down the spine of any onlooker. The family played back their day, laughing at silly antics, unaware they were not alone. Out of the corner of the frame, something moved, dark against the backdrop of warm wood. An unsettling flutter of motion, a whisper of air. Was it just the wind? Or was something watching, waiting? Suddenly, the footage revealed something even more bizarre. One night, under the pale moonlight, they noticed the family dog frozen, staring into the abyss just beyond the camera's reach. Its hair bristled, and a low growl rumbled like thunder rolling through the night. The screen faded to black before cutting to the next clip, yet the chilling echo of that growl seemed to linger in the room, wrapping around everyone watching like a shroud. But here's the kicker: after reviewing that footage, the family found something else. A figure, barely distinct, just outside their window, staring in. A trick of the light? A figment of their imagination? Or were they truly being haunted? As the realization sunk in, panic came alive. Eyes widened, breaths quickened, and voices trembled. How could they have stayed there, oblivious as something sinister lurked just out of sight? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tale unfolds, the family found a second clip. Not just vacation footage, but a haunting truth that tugged at the edge of their sanity. Shadows danced across walls in the dark, turning familiar spaces into labyrinths of fear. Echoes of whispers filled the air, unintelligible but chilling, like broken promises in the silence of the night. Cameras don't lie, but they can tell tales too horrific to comprehend. With every play of the video, the tension climbed, revealing that whatever lingered beyond the lens was now far too close for comfort. The ending of this chapter? It's only just began, but what they would uncover next could change everything, or send them spiraling into the dark. What else would those cameras unveil? The family huddled together, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of the screen. What they witnessed felt unreal. It was as if they had been plunged into some nightmarish loop from which there was no escape. As the revelation settled in, dread gnawed at the edges of their thoughts. The sinister presence outside the window hadn't just watched them, it had deliberately chosen to remain hidden, lurking in the dark shadows that crept around the cabin. "Let us watch it again," the father, Michael, suggested, his voice trembling but determined. "Maybe we missed something." Glimmering with nervous anticipation, they replayed the video. This time, they focused harder, their breaths hitching with every unsettling sound. As the first clip started, the bright, innocent laughter of the children faded, only to be replaced by a thick, oppressive silence punctuated by the heavy thud they'd heard before. It struck like a hammer against their calm, sending a wave of goosebumps cascading over their arms. "Look!" cried Lily, the eldest daughter, pointing at the screen. "There. Right there. Just outside the edge of the frame, a faint figure flickered in and out of existence, an indistinct shape that blended seamlessly into the darkness. The more they stared, the more it appeared to shift. Almost as if it became aware of their scrutiny, the shadow twisted, elongating before collapsing again into the veil of night. "What on earth is it?" whispered Sarah, the mother, her voice barely a breath. Fear laced her words while a growing sense of dread filled the air like a storm about to break. Each family member's tension mounted. The need for answers turned anxiety into a cold, hard knot in their stomachs. They had stepped into the unknown, and something terrible was waiting to be revealed. An urgent desire to capture more footage overtook them. They grabbed their cameras, driven by the instinct to document whatever awaited them. Shaking hands adjusted the settings, hearts raced as they ventured outside. The cabin's wooden steps creaked ominously with each hesitant step. Outside, the moon hung low, bathing everything in a silvery glow, yet shadows sprawled beneath the trees, twisting into haunting silhouettes. The air was thick and still, heavy with an unseen presence, a sense of being watched digging deeper into their skin. "Maybe it was just another trick of the light," Michael murmured, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his doubt. He edged closer to the tree line, where darkness pooled like ink. "I need to find out." As they swept through the yard, a low growl rolled through the silence. It resonated deep in their chests, a visceral warning that shattered any delusion of safety. The dog, now agitated, tore ahead, barking fiercely at the encroaching shadows. He ran, barking madly as if he sensed something more than they could see. "Come back!" Lily called, panic breaking through her expression. Before they could react, the earth beneath them shuddered, and a rush of wind tore through the trees, swirling like a tornado. The sound was deafening, drowning out their shouts. Branches scraped against each other, crackling like bones snapping. The cameras captured it all. They recorded the chaos. But as they stumbled back towards the cabin, the realization hit like a freezing wave. Their video wouldn't just hold memories, it was now a record of their last moments together. If they weren't careful, heartbeats echoed in their ears. "What are we dealing with?" Sarah whispered, fear blossoming in her chest, and as if to answer her question, the dark mass formed again at the edge of the woods, watching, waiting. The chill that crawled up their spines warned them that this wasn't merely a voyeur. It had intentions, and they were about to discover what unleashed that darkness. "Do you see it?" Michael breathed out, eyes locked onto the screen. "Because I think it sees us." The air felt electric with terror, as shadows conspired to swallow them whole. What was about to happen next would shatter their very perception of reality, leaving them to question everything they had ever known. And just as they reached the cabin door, a handprint wet and glistening suddenly appeared on the window. What did it want? Did it know them? The tension rose to a breaking point. The family braced for the horror that would follow. Michael's heart pounded in his chest as he stumbled back, eyes fixated on the streak of dampness on the glass. The handprint was unmistakably human, large and smeared as if someone or something had pressed against it with urgency. Fear coursed through him, igniting instincts to shield his family from the unknown peril. "Back inside. Hurry!" His command cut through the air, urgent and desperate. They rushed through the cabin door, slamming it shut with a bang that echoed in the tense silence. The latch clicked into place, but Michael could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against the walls, as if it were trying to force its way in. "Did you see that?" Lily gasped, breathing heavily, her eyes wide with shock. "What if it's still out there?" Sarah's face was pale, worry etched deep into her features. It might have followed us." The very thought sent a chill racing down her spine. Michael, still shaking, reached for his phone, fumbling as he struggled to find the right app to capture the events outside. His hands felt like lead, the device slipping from his grasp. "I'll get a better look. Maybe we can see it again." "Are you crazy?" Lily protested, her voice rising. "You can't just get the other cameras set up." He snapped back, his protective instinct kicking in. "We need to see if it comes back." The family scattered, darting from room to room, each person grasping their own device to record, ready to document whatever horror lurked on the edge of the woods. As Michael pointed his phone toward the window, shadows curled and twisted, morphing into forms that danced on the edge of his vision. He squinted, willing the light to reveal what hid in the darkness, but only uncertainty filled the frame. "Mom, where's the camera?" Lily yelled, rummaging through drawers. "Right here," Sarah called out, holding a handheld camera. It shook in her hands. "I can't believe we're doing this." The tension coiled tighter. As the family gathered again, the only noise was their quickened breathing and the soft mechanical whirs of the cameras. It felt like they were defying a predator, daring it to reveal itself. Then, the growl erupted again, a low rumble vibrating underfoot. It bounced off the cabin walls, reverberating like a sinister melody. "What is that?" The word slipped from Michael's lips as dread settled in. Just then, the screen flickered, a static rattle shaking the room. The video feed struggled to maintain clarity, the image of the forest warping. Suddenly, a flicker showed movement in the darkness, and then another figure's emerging, ephemeral and fleeting, at the very edges just beyond the tree line. Shadows weaving toward them, almost gliding, his pulse raced as the figures seemed to swell and multiply. "Oh God, what is that?" he whispered, eyes wide, but before he could capture the moment, a crash resonated, a sharp sound against the cabin. The family jumped, cameras clattering against each other. Panic surged in Lily's eyes, and she clutched her mother's arm, seeking comfort in fear. "Stay together," Sarah instructed, holding on to her family titan, their unity becoming fragile under the weight of impending doom. A second crash echoed, louder this time, followed by heavy, labored breathing that filled the small space like the sound of something volatile just outside, straining against the very fabric of their reality. Lily scrambled to the window, her breaths quick and shallow. "It's out there. I can see it." "What do you see?" Michael pushed through the mass of fear, instinctively leaning closer to Lily. I don't know," she managed, trembling. "It's like a person but not a person." Her face twisted in confusion and fear. Suddenly, shadows at the window flickered again, expanding into an indistinct form, blocking out the light. It was there, a hulking shape pressed against the glass, the handprint now smudged, and more dark fingers appearing behind it, trailing drips of something sticky like resinous oil. "What do we do?" Sarah breathed, despair brimming in her voice as the shadows seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Michael's mind raced. There was no safety to be found. They weren't just being watched, they were prey. And now the hunt was beginning, and just as they braced for the inevitable confrontation, an ear-splitting crash shattered through the door, splintering the wood, sending splinters flying. What would happen to them next? Would they face the horror that awaited them, or would they become part of the very darkness they had tried to capture? The door burst open, the wood splintering into the air like fragments of their sanity. Shadows swept into the cabin, merging with the living room's dim light, stretching and contorting as if alive. Michael's instincts kicked in, and he shouted a command that slid dangerously close to panic. "Everyone, back! To the kitchen!" The family scrambled, fear propelling them backward as something monstrous loomed in the doorway, silhouetted by the eerie glow of the outdoors. Michael felt the heat of terror rise in his chest, suffocating, but he fought to maintain control. His heart raced faster when he glimpsed a horrific shape at the threshold, a twisted figure with elongated limbs, its head too large, and its eyes, those eyes were too many, shining with unnatural light. "Is it coming?" Lily whimpered, desperately scanning the chaos around her. "Just hold on." Sarah's voice trembled as she backed against the kitchen counter, gripping the camera close to her body like a shield. The kids huddled together, their breaths ragged, despair written all over their faces. Michael peered over the counter, inching toward the doorway with a deep breath, steeling himself. The creature shifted, and the floor creaked beneath its weight, splattering the ground with a sticky, black substance. It oozed like tar, pooling around the doorframe. Michael's stomach turned at the thought of what that might be. Suddenly, one of the cameras flickered on, unintentionally capturing reality through a lens of horror. The low growls morphed into guttural hisses, whispering incomprehensible words, a sound that clawed at their sanity. Shadows danced in the periphery, and the air felt thick, almost suffocating. "Get that light!" Michael yelled, motioning toward a flashlight on the table. Lily darted to grab it, fear sparking adrenaline. In that split second, the creature lunged forward, slithering with a speed that shouldn't belong to its size. "No!" Michael shouted, his heart leaping to his throat as he lunged to intercept it. The clash echoed, his body colliding with it, and for a moment, he felt its cold, slick skin grotesque and writhing. Sarah screamed, "Michael!" And the sound cut through him like a blade. He turned to see Lily fumbling for the flashlight, tears streaming down her cheeks, and something primal ignited in him. "Shine it!" he shouted, pushing against the beast as it writhed under his hold. Lily swung the beam toward the doorway, illuminating the horror for a brief moment. A horrific visage filled the beam, a grotesque face with a mouth too wide, bearing jagged teeth, and eyes, millions of glistening eyes reflecting the light like the wreckage of a nightmare. The very second Lily found her courage and activated the light, the creature shrieked, a sound that pierced the silence like shattering glass. It scrambled back, leaving a smear of black ichor on the floor behind it. The family held their breath, frozen in terror, as it recoiled into the forest shadows, swallowing it whole. "Is it gone?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a breath, scanning the darkened woods beyond the threshold. "I think so, but," Michael started, catching his breath, but before he could finish, another sound echoed, a rustle, then an echo of laughter filled with malice. "It's playing with us," Lily whispered, eyes wide with horror. "It knows we're here." Michael felt ice seep into his veins. They hadn't escaped. They had only awakened something lurking in the dark. "Let us check the other cameras," Michael urged, his heart pounding once more, dread wrapping its fingers around him. What they found would change everything. Each video held the potential of revealing the monster's truth, but could they confront it? As they gathered in the living room, fear coursing through their veins, the cameras played back footage of the woods around them. And just as they leaned in, trying to figure out what they were seeing, another whisper crawled into the air. "They're not alone." Would the family uncover the dark truth before it was too late, or would they find themselves trapped in a web woven by fear? The darkness felt thick, wrapping around the cabin like a living shroud. The hushed rustle fading into malevolent laughter left Michael's heart pounding like a war drum. He exchanged frantic glances with Sarah, her eyes wide, pupils dilated with fear. "What just happened?" Sarah whispered, her voice tremulous. The camera feed flickered, showcasing the ominous outlines of trees swaying against the dark sky. Michael swallowed hard. "We need to see what else is there. Maybe we can find out what that thing is." Lily nodded, clutching the flashlight, its beam currently their only weapon against the gnawing darkness outside. As they huddled around the screen, adrenaline coursed through them. Were those shadows moving? Michael squinted. He pressed play on the camera footage, his pulse racing as the tape whirred to life. Static crackled before images flickered onto the screen. There they were, footage from earlier that day. The family had laughed and played, the woods basking in warm sunlight. It seemed almost mundane. But an unsettling chill pricked at Michael's skin as the surroundings slowly morphed into creeping twilight. Then it happened. In the corner of one frame, something shifted. A subtle darkness swallowed a patch of trees, the movement almost imperceptible. "Did you see that?" Michael's voice came out harsh. Everyone leaned closer. With the camera's help, they fast-forwarded through mundane scenery until they landed back on the fleeting figure. Its stilted, disjointed movements made the breath catch in their throats. "There!" Lily cried, pointing frantically at the screen as it distorted yet again, blurring the lines between man and monster. A vein of terror traced through the back of Michael's mind. An underlying instinct whispered that they were far from the only souls in the woods. He could almost sense the creature watching them with its multitude of eyes, cloaked in the shadows just beyond their reach. Suddenly, the screen fractured into chaos. A loud thud vibrated through the walls, rattling the windows, followed by what sounded like a desperate wail. The family jumped back, hearts racing. What was that? Sarah gasped, gripping the countertop. The laughter returned, louder now, echoing around the cabin with a derisive edge that made the hairs on Michael's arms stand. "We need to get out of here," he urged, panic seeping into his tone. "They know we're here, and they're not alone." "No. We can't just leave," Sarah replied fiercely, her eyes glistening with resolve. "We can't let it win. We've got to fight." Michael admired her bravery but felt dread clawing its way back. Light flickered again from the camera feed. An unsettling pulse thudded like a heartbeat on the screen. It was moving toward them, outside, the rustling intensified, branches snapping, leaves crunching. "It's coming back." Lily's voice pierced the air. They all turned to the window, dread pooling in their stomachs. The shadows seemed to lengthen and stretch, as if reaching out, eager to ensnare them, to pull them into the darkness. "Everyone, stay close and grab something, anything," Michael shouted, adrenaline fueling him. As they scrambled to find weapons, another thunderous knock rocked the cabin. This time, the door buckled under the force of the blow. A sinister wind swirled in, causing the candles to flicker furiously. Shadows danced along the walls like mocking specters. In that moment, something primal broke inside Michael. "I'll hold it off," he yelled, lunging toward the door, heart racing, every fiber of his being screaming that he had to protect his family, even if it meant standing alone against the dark. But as he reached the threshold, a realization washed over him. What awaited them outside was more than he could ever wage war against. The door creaked slowly, opening just a crack, revealing the void beyond. A low, rumbling growl penetrated the silence. It felt like the growl of the forest itself, alive, hungry, impatient. "What if we don't go out?" whispered Lily, her voice quaking under the weight of fear. Michael's heart dropped. "We can't stay here, but..." The shadows had already stretched closer, wrapping around their ankles, whispering promises of despair. And just then, they heard it, a slow, deliberate dragging sound, inching closer from the tree line, dragging the weight of horror with it. What awaited them outside crossed the threshold, poised on the brink of their darkest nightmares, and the only thing left standing was a choice that could change everything. Would they dare face the lurking terror, or remain trapped in the cabin while it hunted them down? The moment hung thick like the fog outside, and Michael felt time stretch, a taut wire ready to snap. Dark tendrils snaked around his legs, each whisper promising doom. He could almost feel the presence beyond the door, a dark weight encroaching on their last bastion of safety. "Michael, please," Sarah's voice broke through his fog of dread. "Don't they hear you?" The dragging sound grew louder, a deliberate rhythm that echoed through the cabin's confines. Each scrape against the floor sent a jolt through their spines. The shadows shifted, contrasting with the flickering light, morphing into shapes that seemed all too familiar. Lost figures, perhaps, or worse, reflections of their own growing fears. Instinct urged him to step away from the door, retreat into the dim light, but courage locked his feet in place. "I can't let it in, whatever it is." His voice trembled, thick with uncertainty. Lily's breaths came in shallow gasps. She picked up a heavy glass lamp, its base cold against her palm. "We have to do something. We can't just stand here." The door rattled violently, a frenetic pulse that nearly matched the thudding of their hearts. It felt alive. It felt hungry. Suddenly, the cabin fell silent, disquieting, wanting. The dragging stopped, and all that remained was the breath of the wind and the soft patter of leaves. A shared glance among them held an unspoken agreement, a flicker of resolve against the impending darkness. "On three, okay? We need to push it shut if it comes inside," Michael commanded, his voice steadying. He could see Sarah's hesitant nod and Lily's firm grip around the lamp. They were ready, unsure, bound together by fear but fueled by survival. 1-2 The door splintered with a massive blow, the wood cracking as if it were a wall of ice breaking apart. "Now!" Michael shouted, throwing his weight against the door. The door pushed open, slamming against his chest as he staggered back, a howl of wind swirling in. There, in the contrasting glow of the flashlight, stood a creature writhing, a grotesque blend of limbs and shadows, eyes narrowing as they settled on the figures inside. "Get back!" Sarah screamed, holding the flashlight high. Its beam cut through the darkness like a sword, revealing fleeting visions of its grotesque form. Jagged teeth, glimmering in the light, twitched near a gaping maw that seemed to be grinning, mocking. Lily swung the lamp wildly, its arc barely grazing the creature as it lunged forward. The shadows throbbed with a life of their own, leaping from every corner, eager to cling to their screams. Michael gasped, adrenaline erupting within him. "Keep pushing." The door slammed shut, not entirely, but enough to create a barrier against the monstrous thing. He wedged his shoulder against it, driven to hold back the force. With shaking hands, Sarah fumbled for a chair, thrusting it against the door, slamming it tight. But the growls on the other side were primal, pulsing, the beast's hunger palpable as it began to claw and scratch. "What does it want?" Lily cried, tears of panic streaking down her face. "I don't know." Michael shouted back, fear igniting his urgency. "But we can't let it have us. Not like this." The world outside had turned into a battleground, and as the clock ticked menacingly forward, each second weighed heavy. Their breaths were ragged, strained against the din of claws ceaselessly shredding wood, a chilling reminder of the fragility of their sanctuary. Then, amidst the chaos, a low howl rose, merging with the wind, shifting their focus again. Had they awakened something worse? What if there are more? Sarah gasped, whispered, a new layer of fear creeping into her eyes. Before they could answer, another sound rippled through the trees, a guttural call, echoing back from deeper in the woods. There were others, and they were coming, hands shaking. Michael held tight against the door, feeling the vibrations of the creature's rage through his fingertips. Had they truly chosen the right fight? As more pounding shook the cabin, nearly drowning out their panicked breaths, Michael caught sight of something, a flicker of shadows gathering, converging toward them, hungry for flesh. What awaited them beyond the door now felt terrifyingly akin to lurking salvation. But which choice would lead them to survive the night? Would they stand their ground together or be swept into a darkness deeper than the woods could conjure? Time was slipping away. The door quaked beneath Michael's shoulder, groaning in protest against the creature's relentless assault. He could feel his heart pounding in his throat, each reverberation drowning out any rational thought. There was no way they could hold it back forever, and each second felt like it lengthened, the tendrils of despair wrapping tighter around them. "Michael, the windows!" Lily shouted, pointing with urgency. "We can't just let it shut up." He barked, cutting her off, his eyes wild. Her words hung in the air like a noose. What would they do if the windows shattered? He looked toward Sarah, who stood pale and trembling, the flashlight flickering ominously. "Focus, Sarah," he urged, doing his best to keep the panic at bay. "Can you keep the light steady? We need to see what we're dealing with." Okay, she stuttered, pressing her back against the wall, aiming the beam at the door. Just as Michael shifted his weight, the door flexed out, a chilling gust pouring through the crevice. It was like ice laced with talons brushing against his skin. The creature on the other side thrummed with anticipation. He pressed harder, gritting his teeth. Lily squeaked, "What if it gets in, Michael? What do we do then?" Their eyes met, the reality setting in. They hadn't planned for this. Survival wasn't just a fight, it was a puzzle with pieces they didn't have yet. "Just hold on," he yelled, encouraging himself more than anyone. "We can't let any of it through." But outside, the howling chorus grew louder. Shadows twisted and writhed, and the night was alive with terrible intent. He wished he could curl up into himself and disappear. He focused on Sarah's face, the way she tried to keep her own fear in check but failed. Then, another echoing crash reverberated against the walls, this time louder, more violent. The chair crumbled against the impact, leaving their temporary barrier compromised. "Michael!" Sarah screamed, panic racing through her veins. The flashlight flickered dangerously, sending shadows dancing manically across their cramped sanctuary. His thoughts turned frantic. "We need to find something stronger." The words left his mouth just as another shudder rocked the cabin. Timber splintered, and part of the door gaped open, revealing a glimpse of the creature's swirling blackness. "I can't hold it," he grunted, muscles straining. The sheer force pressed against him was like nothing he'd ever known. "I have an idea." Lily rushed to the back of the room, her voice trembling with supreme urgency. "There's a back door. We might be able to escape if we get it." He shouted at her. "Go now." Before he could register her response, she dashed toward the flimsy kitchen door, only to have it swing open as if inviting her in. The inky tendrils slithered into the space, and Michael felt a cold rush of air behind him. The creature bellowed, an otherworldly sound that reverberated through his bones. "Lily! Come back!" Sarah shrieked, the light flickering violently. "No! It's a trap!" he shouted, eyes wide as dread coursed through him. But Lily was already past the threshold, almost engulfed by the shadows. He saw her mouth moving, though nothing came out but a horrified gasp. Suddenly, where darkness wrapped around her, a blinding light exploded from the room where the back door was ajar. It flared brightly, illuminating everything, casting the creature back momentarily. Michael squinted as the shadows shrieked, recoiling from the sudden brilliance, and then, just like that, the light winked out. "What just happened?" he whispered, trembling as he turned to Sarah, whose face was frozen in terror. "Michael, we have to go. We have to get out." But the terrified whisper hung there, thick with dread. Faint sounds from outside began to grow. come out, wherever you are," a voice sang sickly sweet, creeping closer. He squinted into the darkness as it bubbled across the floor like a storm. What did they unleash? Instinct kicked in. The fleeting warmth of hope had evaporated. They were on the precipice of some unspeakable horror. "We can't go out there, it's worse," he gasped. Back against the wall. The cabin felt suffocating, shadows piling in, hungry for flesh and fear. Something slammed against the door again with a dreadful force. The sound was deafening, threatening to splinter their last shred of safety. With a jarring realization, he understood that this was only the beginning, and whatever lay outside was far more terrifying than what was inside. Could they survive the nightmare still lurking just beyond the door, or had they already lost Lily to the darkness? The answer lingered like an unwelcome echo. The floorboards creaked under Michael's weight as he stepped away from the door, fear clawing at his insides. The words of that sickly sweet voice echoed in his mind, twisting like a thorn in his thoughts. What had happened to Lily? Was she lost to whatever creature had sworn its hunger upon them? "Michael!" Sarah's voice broke through his spiraling panic, snapping him back to the moment. "We can't just stand here." He locked eyes with her, their fears colliding in the space between them. "What do we do?" he whispered, trailing off as realization hit him hard. They were trapped, hermetically sealed in a nightmare. "I don't know," Sarah cried, her expression a mix of terror and desperation. With trembling hands, she tightened her grip on the flashlight, its feeble beam quivering like her spirit. "We can't let it in. We can't let it get to us." "Right." He forced the words out, trying to quell the rage of chaos swirling within him. They needed a plan. Fast. Then he remembered the kitchen knives. "If we can grab something sharp," maybe. He trailed off, the thought rekindling a desperate glimmer of hope. "Go," Sarah urged, her voice cracking. "I'll try to hold it." As he rushed toward the kitchen, the walls whispered dread. The air felt thicker, as if the very essence of fear was seeping into the room. Each crunching stride echoed as he dodged around the scattered chairs and fallen debris. "Michael!" Her voice echoed, wavering unsteadily behind him, but he couldn't look back now. Reaching the counter, he grabbed a knife, the cold steel sending a shiver up his spine. It felt so small, fragile against the looming darkness beyond the door. The intensity of the creature's growls intensified, a monstrous symphony of dread. "Sarah!" he shouted, racing back. But his feet faltered as he caught a glimpse of the door. Huge cracks were splintering outward, tendrils snaking in like fingers. The flashlight flickered one last time before dying, plunging the room into darkness. "Michael!" came Sarah's frantic scream. "Help!" Without the light, shadows morphed into one, swirling toward him like a storm. He felt around desperately, pushing back against the encroaching blackness. "Hold on!" he yelled, praying she would. The door slammed open with a thunderous crash, scattering fragments of wood like confetti, and there it stood, an amalgamation of nightmare, dripping and writhing. A vast, shapeless form, its eyes glowed cruelly in the dim light, an embodiment of pure malevolence. "Michael!" Sarah cried, her voice snapping him into a focus he didn't know he had. He launched himself forward. "Get out! Run!" he shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. But the banshee wail from the creature pierced through the air, thick with malice. Michael didn't know if it was directed at him, Sarah, or both, but terror surged through him, urging him to act. He made a snap decision, lunging toward the tendrils, aiming to sever the creature's reach. The knife, though, felt weightless in his grasp, as if it were an offering at that moment of horror. "What are you doing?" Sarah shouted, paralyzing disbelief evident in her voice. "I have to distract it," he screamed back, strength renewing with each step closer to the grotesque nightmare. The darkness surged forward like a tidal wave, and just as Michael closed in, he knocked against something solid. Lily's chair. It fell over, crashing loudly to the floor. "Hold on!" he shouted to Sarah, hoping she would move. But the tendrils caught the edge of the chair, pulling it down with monstrous strength. Time stretched as he stood frozen, caught between terror and determination. The creature's roar rattled everything in the room, and then, in a flash, Sarah was gone. "No!" Michael shouted, the word tearing from him as realization shattered the last remnants of hope. He charged forward, but shadows consumed her just as they had Lily. Tears blurred his vision, and the world spiraled around him, a whirlwind of grating horror and despair. The creature turned its gaze upon him, its momentary victory palpable in the air. The echoes of his world collapsed, leaving him alone to battle the abyss. What lay beyond the thin veil of darkness seemed worse than the doom they fought against. Michael took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Why won't you just leave us alone?" he growled, the knife trembling in his grip, but all he heard in return was the echoing laughter of the shadows, tasting their cruel victory. As he stood on the precipice of pure fate, bracing for the unavoidable, a flicker of light appeared, not from the flashlight, but something else entirely. And in that moment, everything froze. What had he unleashed, and could he unravel the fate that inched closer around him? The flicker of light danced in the blackness, cutting through the heaviness that clung to the air. It was surreal, a beacon of hope in a world crumbling into despair. Michael could hardly breathe. "Sarah?" he called, voice quivering despite his attempts to mask the fear. "Are you there?" Silence answered back, thick and suffocating. The light flickered again, casting long shadows that slithered across the floor. The smell of damp earth filled his nostrils, mixed with something metallic. Blood? Panic surged through him. He forced himself to take a step forward, every nerve in his body screamed at him to flee. But if he didn't find Sarah, if he didn't fight this creature, it would consume everything. His heart thundered in his chest, battling against the sound of something slithering just outside his field of vision. The light flickered once more, illuminating a grotesque shape huddled in the corner. Something small, something familiar. Lily? Michael's voice came out a whisper, hope and horror colliding. But the figure shifted, revealing a shadow adorned with hollow eyes, void of the warmth he craved. It wasn't Lily at all. It was the beast, its features morphing in the flickering light, absorbing and reflecting the darkness around it. Leave him, its voice twisted, a sickly sweet echo winding through the air. Join us in the shadows, no. Get away. Michael shouted, gripping the knife tighter, feeling the slickness of his own sweat against the handle, the cold slipping under his fingers. He lunged forward, expression taut and furious as he aimed for the creature's grotesque mass. As he propelled himself into the darkness, he swiped the knife in desperate arcs, the blade easily slicing through the tendrils, unearthing the grotesque secrets hiding within. But no matter how much he severed, the thing kept growing back, an unyielding mass of anguish. With a roar that echoed the agony of 1,000 souls, the creature lunged at him, its tendrils snapping like furious vipers. A glimmer in the corner of his eye caught his attention, the flicker of light. Something tangible. He darted toward it, the floor slick beneath his feet as shadows writhed at his heels, gnashing their teeth with malicious glee. The light flared up as he got closer, suddenly revealing a small lantern resting on the floor. It was battered, but it pulsed with life, casting soft beams into the encroaching dark, illuminating arches of nightmares. The girl's face appeared in his mind, Sarah's eyes filled with terror. If I can reach her, Michael's heart skipped, conviction locking into place. He turned, focusing back on the writhing mass. Sarah! He yelled again, his voice fierce, trying to drown out the creature's distractions. I'm coming for you. He ignited the lantern, the fire blossoming into a violent star. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the blaze, their laughter turning to cries of rage. Hope surged within him. He could push it back. With a determined charge, he kept the lantern high, pushing through the remnants of Sarah's screams echoing in his mind, forcing himself into the darkness. Every step forward felt like a rebirth, a reclaiming of power. The light danced against the creature, which howled in fury, losing its grip on the air. Then he saw her, a small, crumpled form at the edge of the shadows, barely illuminated by the lantern's glow. Michael, please. Sarah's voice was cracked and fragile, like thin glass threatened to break. He rushed towards her, desperation fueling each stride. Before he could reach her, thick tendrils shot out, wrapping around his legs, dragging him back. But he wouldn't give in, not now. He slashed outwards, the knife sinking into the creature's flesh with a satisfying cut, finally breaking free. Get up! He shouted, raising the lantern high, we're getting out of here. But the shadows were regrouping. Terror froze his breath. Whatever he unleashed wasn't finished yet. He hoisted Sarah up, pulling her toward the light. The beast reared back, its form twisting grotesquely, filling the room with an ache of pure dread. Both of them stumbled backward, the world spiraling as something colder than death encircled them. Michael, it's too late. Sarah cried, but he refused to listen. No! He roared. The lantern sputtered. He had to believe they could escape. Just then, a jarring silence fell, almost palpable. The roaring chaos ceased. Time pulled taut, the creature stopped. Everything stopped, and then, in the strangest turn, it whispered, you think yourself the hunter, but all you have done is kindle the flames of my hunger. A piercing laughter pressed against the walls, chilling them to the bone. Michael! Sarah's eyes widened, panic flooding through her as a dark shape shifted behind him, an even darker silhouette forming as fear gripped her throat. He turned. He wasn't ready for what loomed behind him. What if this was just the beginning? The cabin felt like a bomb about to explode, every heartbeat a countdown to the inevitable. Michael gripped the lantern tighter, the flickering light illuminating the twisted, menacing figure creeping nearer. We can't give up, not now. He shouted fiercely, determination igniting like wildfire in his chest. But the shadows laughed, a horrible, rasping sound that gnawed at their sanity. We're not alone, Sarah whispered, her face pale with terror. Michael's heart raced as he swung the lantern towards the growing darkness. The shadows, thick and suffocating, stretched out toward them like a hungry monster unveiling its fangs. "Stay by me," Michael urged, muscles tensed, fully aware that they had awakened something dreadful. He could feel the air moving, rippling around them, whispering of tragedy hidden in the folds of night. He and Sarah edged slowly backward, desperately grasping at the last hope the lantern offered. The creature writhed, its form oscillating like boiling tar, a dark abyss that stretched and contracted, revealing faceless horror in its depths. "You can't cage what's free," it hissed, voice coiling around them like smoke, tightening their chests. "You were foolish to awaken me, foolish." Michael bristled. "You won't take us." He charged the lantern forward, the light flaring brilliantly. For a fleeting moment, the creature reeled back, and in that instant, they surged toward the back door. "Run!" he bellowed. The two of them tore through the darkness, slashing at the shadows with the lantern's light. Each flicker pushed away the tendrils trying to grasp them. But the world twisted underfoot, the ground felt weak, trembling. They stumbled together, but adrenaline pulsed through them, each breath fueling their desperate flight. Then came the scream, a broken sound that dropped like a stone into his gut. "Michael!" It was a cry born of sheer agony, ripping through the air. He turned, but it was too late. The darkness seemed to swallow Sarah whole. "No!" His body responded faster than thought, but what could he do? He was free falling, grasping at smoke, wrestling with despair. The only light now flickered like a dying ember in the clutches of the void. Shadows were closing in, swallowing the lantern's glow. The fear roared through him, but he had to keep fighting. "Sarah!" he cried, desperation filling every corner of his voice. He fought back the encroaching darkness, racing into the heart of the cabin once more, praying against himself that he could pull her out of the hell they stumbled into, and there, amidst the chaos, he saw it, the creature. It loomed near the windows, shadows writhed like tendrils around Sarah's form. She was caught. Panic shot through him, but he could see her face, struggling against the horror. He reached for her, raising the lantern high. "Get away from her!" he shouted defiantly, the fire burning with an intensity fueled by love and desperation. The brightness swept through the room, scorching away night like a torch illuminating a dark cave. Tendrils shrieked, fleeing from the light as Michael barreled toward Sarah, his pulse reverberating in time with his desperate breaths. "Michael!" Relief washed over her face as he drew close, arms outstretched. Just as he grasped her hand, shadows exploded about them, a cacophony of twisted cries echoed as the creature reeled, a ritual of chaos. The light snuffed the darkness away, revealing flashes of its horrific visage, laughter slipping through every crack. He yanked her closer, eliciting a fierce scream that momentarily drowned out the abhorrent laughter. "Hold on tight!" he yelled, pulling her toward the back door. Together, they stumbled, tearing through the smothering veil, the weight of shadows clawing at their heels. The door burst open, the night air sweeping them into its embrace. The moon bathed the scene in eerie light, a sharp contrast to the encroaching dread they had just fled. They dashed into the woods, racing through the trees that stood tall. They were alive together, hands clasped tightly, clutching the remains of hope, but behind them, the shadows stirred, relentless, stretching into a slithering mass. "You can't run from your horrors!" the creature screamed, the voice booming as it drifted between branches and roots. "Run, Sarah!" Michael urged, struggling to shake the icy grip of fear that clutched at him. They couldn't stop, couldn't falter. They needed to escape, they needed to find safety before the darkness caught up. Branches lashed against them like judgment, pulling, tearing at their clothes, but nothing would break their hold. With every step they took away from the cabin, freedom felt closer, courage propelled them forward. Then, suddenly, a clearing opened, illuminated by the ghostly light of the moon. Breathless and desperate, they collapsed to the forest floor. Michael glanced back expectantly, terrified the shadows would come crashing through the trees, but they didn't. Silence fell, thick and heavy. The air, once charged with fear, now held a stillness that felt unreal. Did we do it? Sarah gasped, breaths ragged as hope dared to bloom in her chest. I think so. Michael's voice trembled, every word thick with disbelief, relief washing over them like summer rain. The moonlight danced on his face, fleeting, a reminder of how close they had come to succumbing to the darkness. They sat together, hearts racing, minds haunted by what had transpired. But with the dawn approaching and the darkness retreating, perhaps, just perhaps, their battle was finally over. As they caught their breaths, Michael gently squeezed Sarah's hand, tears of gratitude pooling in his eyes. We're alive, he whispered, the weight of their survival settling like a sigh in the shadows of the past. In that moment, they understood the fragility of life, the beauty that intertwined with terror, and how love conquered even the deepest of fears. They turned eventually, watching as the first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, scattering the last remnants of fear, scattering the darkness. They would carry their scars with them, but the dawn reminded them that light would always dawn, even after the longest of nights. As they walked into the new day, they realized that love and hope had brought them through the abyss, a profound reminder that together they could face anything, and as they made their way toward the future, they vowed never to forget. Their taste of fear would remind them to treasure moments of joy, always looking into the light, but just as they crossed the threshold into the warmth of the dawn, they both felt a chill and unsettling wind whispering promises of shadows still lurking behind. Let us go home, Sarah suggested, glancing around, unease threading through her words. Michael nodded, gripping her hand tighter. But they both knew their fight was over. It had only just begun, before the shadows could claim them once more. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this chilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this terrifying tale. You need to subscribe now and join our growing community of fearless fans.